Varshney.
I'm Alyssa.
I'm Malaya.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Mariah.
I'm Shelly, and I want to share my experience as a woman of color in a UGA Panhellenic sorority. So the topic of what it's like to go through recruitment as a minority is so hard for a non-minority to understand, and I hope I can still shed some light on it. It just feels like everyone's eyes are on you, and maybe not necessarily that everyone's eyes are actually physically on you, but it just feels like there's something so different about you that it brings attention to you.
I had heard all these things about sororities, like, oh, they're exclusively white and there's not a lot of room for minorities and it's like mainly rich white girls. And I think going through recruitment kind of did confirm some of those biases, or not even biases, just truths, honestly. I remember before recruitment, I had like stalked the the sororities on Instagram and like just seeing like how many girls there were in pictures, like how many girls there were that looked like me, just to get a feel for like where I might be a better fit.
During the summer, I would go through all the different sororities' Instagrams and try to find other people of color, and just like trying to find one where I felt like I would, I don't know, fit in more. And then when recruitment actually started, I just remember every house that I walked into, I would scan the room and try to find just another person of color, and just always feeling a little bit out of place because of that.
Girls felt the need to talk to me about diversity when I didn't ask. Like, I do know what I'm getting myself into. I go to UGA, and on top of that, I'm being recruited for a sorority. Like, I know that this isn't a diverse environment, so you don't really have to pretend like it is.
Song for the hustlers trading at the bus stop, single mothers waiting on a check to come, young teachers, student doctors, sons on the front line knowing they don't get to run.
There were little things, there were little ways I was talked to, I would be complimented different from other girls, like they say things to me like slay and like whatever, that I'm like, would you say that to me if I like look differently?
This one girl walked up to me and said my dress was on fleek, and I just like thought to myself, like, would you say that if I weren't black? Like, I have to laugh about it now. It showed that, like, yes, while Greek life is trying their best to get better with this, there's still a long way to go, and like there's just like these small code switches that some girls tend to do that made me uncomfortable.
So my elementary school, my high school, everything was like 100% white. And so because of my skin tone, I can easily code switch into a girl that's embarrassed of her Mexican heritage, a girl that maybe at like a Mexican restaurant or when talking to her parents, she speaks Spanish with like an American accent, because I try to make everyone around me feel more comfortable. I was able to easily code switch during recruitment.
So code switching is basically when you change how you talk or act or sometimes dress to fit in with a certain demographic of people. It's kind of a dehumanizing thing to go through, because it's like I can hear what you're saying, like I get what you're saying. No matter what, like how you're saying it, I get what you're saying.
I knew how to do this. I'd been trained in playing like the white woman's game my entire life. And so I was easily able to code switch into that person, into maybe not being my truest self, because I, not embarrassed, but I just like knew how to make people feel comfortable around me.
And so going into a sorority and like finally like receiving a bid from one, I think there's a certain mold that people in Greek life need to fit, and I don't think I fit that for a number of reasons. And so I think it was hard in the beginning, like having cognitive dissonance between like being true to myself and also like wanting to find a community of people. But I think especially with everything that's been happening in our world now, I think I've found a group of people that I know like have my back and support me through everything.
Suddenly when I joined, I felt like I wasn't fitting in, I wasn't enjoying it at all. So being the only Indian girl in my pledge class, and along with a handful of minorities in my pledge class and also in the whole sorority in general, it was so hard getting accustomed to what it was like to be in a sorority, in a Panhellenic Greek sorority. Naturally, when people choose to be friends with whoever they want to be friends with, they choose it based off of who looks similar to them, or who has the same beliefs as them, or the same mannerisms as them. And I felt like when a person was choosing to be friends with me over a white person, they were choosing the white person because that's what felt familiar to them. And that's not to blame them that they were choosing a white person over me. It's just that it's something that you don't pick up on naturally. You just do it because that's how you feel like you want to go to someone who is familiar to you and who looks like you.
Imposter syndrome is kind of a thing that I feel like a lot of girls deal with in their life. I think it's always because of affirmative action. There's always this thing, oh, you only got it because you're a girl, or oh, you only got it because you're whatever. Throughout my life, I've always been like, oh, well, I only got it because I'm brown, or I only got it because I'm Mexican. So like, don't worry, you don't have to feel bad to my white counterparts when I got something over them. But if I'm being honest, that's not true. I got it because I work hard. I got it because I applied. I got it because I got the teacher recommendation, whatever. And so I think that's like a really important thing that I've had to overcome, and I still am working on today, because I've had to make people feel better when I've gotten something over a person that's white.
I had a choice between either continue feeling left out, or I could be myself and let those who love me for me come and be my friend. So basically, second semester, I found such a belonging in Greek life because I felt like there were so many people that related to who I was, not because of my color, but because of the way that I thought and what I believed, and that they would accept me for whatever I was and whatever I brought to the table and my own opinions.
So I would code switch and like act like a certain like way to be looked at as what you should be in this space. And so I think I got to a point, it was probably like middle of sophomore year, so not too long ago, where I said, these girls took me into their sisterhood because they need more than what they're used to. And so that's when I stopped trying to be like who I'm not, and stopped trying to be this girl who I like made up in my head and was just who I am. And who I am might not be like the conventional like sorority girl, but I think it's a good one. And she adds a lot to not only this group of girls, but just this school as a whole. So I feel like I did get to a point where I stopped trying to be someone I'm not, and it's felt amazing since.
Don't care, why don't you recognize I'm so rare?
When people in sororities don't speak out for Black Lives Matter, in support of the LGBTQIA community, it just sends a message that they don't want to change, and then that change is actually what LGBTQ community and women of color rely on to become a part of Greek life.
In a state right now where you have to let people know where you stand, and you can't sit back and like be silent about these things at this point. It's you're on that side or you're on that side, and you can't toe that line.
To the point of how I feel when girls don't speak out on those issues, I actually experienced that happen like a few times, and it hurt my feelings. Like, it genuinely broke my heart, because I'm like, if you love me and I'm your sister and I'm a part of something you're a part of, and like we're associated with each other, I want your heart to break for me when like my people are experiencing a time like this. Sororities on UGA's campus, we do have a platform to speak. I think everybody has a platform to speak. I think it's so important, like, to use those platforms to speak out on issues like this, because I always say that, like, if you don't know something, like, how are you supposed to help or fix it? And I think that educating people and people having a platform to like learn about those issues is so important.
So I think in like current sororities' efforts to become more welcoming places, the work shouldn't rely on the women of color in the sororities. I mean, if they want to help out, like personally, I am on the diversity committee for my sorority, and I really do enjoy that work, but it shouldn't be like, oh, if you're brown or black, like you have to do this, it's your responsibility, because it's really not. It's white people's responsibility to lead the effort to become a more diverse and welcoming place.
We use the words diversity and inclusion as like buzzwords when that's what we need to do. It's not just a word that we need to use from May to August. It's a word that we need to use year-round, day in and day out, and to make these girls in your chapter who do look like these people who are directly affected by these problems feel like you care about them, and not just like it's an Instagram post, or not just like you're trying to virtue signal you need to make these girls feel just as valuable as their white sisters.
I think that we need to learn as a school in general how to be a better environment for people of color, like totally, like how to speak to them, how to react to them, like, and encouraging them to be more in these spaces, because it is a little difficult to make friends when you're not a part of something at UGA, and I think that Black girls and women of color alike should get that opportunity just like everyone else.
And I think like also for active members in sororities, we have to be willing to learn and unlearn our biases and our privilege so that we can better understand, help people that don't have that same privilege.
With the current climate in the world right now, like there's such a need for change, just in society, but also in Panhellenic. And I think that change really starts with you as an individual, and it starts with your heart and just unlearning and relearning certain things, and from there using your voice on the things that you've learned.
I think there needs to be an expectation for each member of Greek life to be anti-racist, and I think then there will be a sustainable change in Panhellenic, in IFC, in Greek life at UGA in general. And I think that's extremely important to be able to have that so that there can be sustainable change. And then and only then, new members, current members of color, Black members will be able to be supported and loved in Panhellenic and in IFC.
And I want people of color in Greek life to feel like just because they are a minority doesn't mean that they're out of place. In fact, it means that like their voice matters that much more, and just like feeling empowered to do that and to make a change and share their stories. Our uniqueness is our superpower.
I think that if people stop feeling so attacked by people trying to help them and learn about these issues, we would get a lot more done. Everybody has a place in this issue, even me as a Black woman. So learning about how you can help in your own way is so beneficial.
At UGA, there's a really big success race, and so it's kind of who can work out the most, who can wake up at 7:30 a.m. every single day, who can get an A on the class but still be social. Don't forget about being social. And I think there's a rejection of hurting. And I really don't think that is healthy at all. Instead of putting up walls, which is exactly what I did, and shutting people out, I think there's a really big importance in being vulnerable, which I know is really daunting, especially now. I think if our entire society, especially at UGA, is more vulnerable, I think especially their freshman year, and talking to other people and realizing that everyone is struggling their freshman year, I think there will be just like a constant uplift of one another.
I think that there's no denying the fact that Greek life in general has racist roots and a racist history, and there's no denying the fact that, or ignoring the fact that people of color make up such a small part of Greek life. But I think that is why women of color that are going through recruitment right now are so important, and I'm so happy that you are going through recruitment right now, because I think that we can be the change. And like, yes, we are such a small part of Greek life, but I think that's why your voice matters that much more.
What I want to tell you girls is that you are going to come into this space and you are going to find more and more girls who look like you, because we are here for change, and we're not just trying to like make you feel like, oh, like, yeah, we'll change, but we won't. Like, no, like, we are trying to change this for the absolute best. And please know that there are girls who do look like you, who have gone through this, and we're here for you, and I will talk to you face to face if you want me to. But just know that you have girls who will root for you on both ends of the spectrum.
So,
Finally,
now that we have shared our experiences, it starts with you.
If this is the first time you're hearing about an experience different than your own, give yourself grace to process it all.
But please, don't stop now.
it isn't enough to just admit that systemic racism and oppression are bad and sad.
it is time to be brave
To learn and unlearn many things you have grown so accustomed to.
And
and
listen.
listen.